On March 12th, 2023, in the quiet town of Vancouver, Washington, a mother and her 7-year-old daughter disappeared without a trace. What started as a routine missing persons case quickly unraveled into something far darker, a twisted story of deception, betrayal, and chilling revelations. At the center of this tragedy was Kirkland Warren, a man with a history as troubling as his relationship with the victims. His past wasn't just messy, it was a ticking time bomb. The real question wasn't just what happened to Michelle Melendez and Layla Stewart that fateful morning, but how a man who had hovered in and out of their lives for years became the central figure in their disappearance. This wasn't just a missing persons case, it was a web of manipulation, secrecy, and deadly consequences that shook an entire community. But before we dive into the heart of this disturbing case, a quick shout out to you, my amazing viewers and subscribers. Your likes, shares, and comments make these stories more impactful. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and join our growing community of true crime enthusiasts. Now let's get into it. Michelle Melendez was 27, a dedicated single mother with an infectious energy. She lived for her daughter Layla, often sharing their happiest moments on TikTok, dancing, playing, just being goofy together. Anyone who saw her content knew one thing. Layla was her entire world. To her family, Michelle wasn't just a mother, she was a kind, beautiful soul who put her child above everything. But behind the joyful videos and smiling photos, Michelle's life was far from perfect. Her biggest struggle? Kirkland Warren, her ex-boyfriend, a man who should have stayed in her past but somehow always found his way back. Their relationship wasn't just rocky, it was a dangerous cycle of makeups, breakups, and red flags that only got brighter over time. And then there was Layla. At just 7 years old, she was a little firecracker, full of life, laughter, and love. She adored her mother and shared a deep bond with her grandmother, Nicole Norris. Regular phone calls kept their connection strong, and her presence brought warmth to everyone around her. But Layla's bright future was stolen before it even had a chance to begin. Now let's talk about Kirkland Warren. At 28, he had a long track record of failed relationships, a criminal history, and demons that never seemed to let go. He wasn't from Washington originally. He grew up in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, dragging a past so dark it cast a shadow over his future. And when he arrived in the Pacific Northwest, trouble followed close behind. Flashback to December 13th, 2022, just months before Michelle and Layla vanished. That night in Vancouver, Washington, Michelle found herself once again entangled with Kirkland, the father of her child, a man she had tried and failed to keep out of her life. Their relationship had always been volatile, filled with fleeting moments of peace overshadowed by looming danger. That night, an argument erupted. The details remain unclear, but one thing is certain: it was intense enough for Kirkland to storm out. But Michelle wasn't convinced he had actually left. Uneasy, she stepped onto her balcony, trying to confirm if he was gone. What happened next changed everything. From the darkness, a gunshot rang out. The bullet shattered the balcony window, barely missing Michelle. A warning shot? A missed attempt? Either way, it was clear. Kirkland Warren wasn't just a problem. He was a threat. And soon, that threat would turn deadly.
Michelle stumbled back, heart pounding. The gunshot had shattered more than just glass. It had ripped through the last thread of denial. Kirkland hadn't just walked away, he had sent a message. For the next 10 days, she stayed silent, maybe out of fear, maybe out of hope that this was a one-time outburst. Either way, she didn't report the shooting, but hope has a nasty habit of turning into regret. On December 23rd, 2022, things took a darker turn. Kirkland attacked her, this time up close. Bruised and terrified, Michelle knew she had no choice. She picked up the phone and called 911, reporting the assault and finally the shooting from days earlier. For the first time, she made it crystal clear. Kirkland wasn't just dangerous. He had threatened to kill her. Police wasted no time. Their investigation backed up Michelle's claims. A friend who had been at her apartment that night confirmed Kirkland had fired the shot. That was all they needed. Kirkland was slapped with multiple charges, including assault and a drive-by shooting. For Michelle and her family, his arrest felt like a breath of fresh air. Maybe now, justice would finally step in. Maybe now Kirkland would face real consequences. The relief didn't last long. During his first court hearing, prosecutors dropped a bombshell. Kirkland wasn't just in trouble in Washington. He was already facing a murder trial in Arkansas. Back in 2017, he had allegedly shot a man and dumped the body in a ditch. And yet somehow he had been out on bond this entire time. This wasn't just a warning sign. It was a flashing neon billboard. Kirkland wasn't just a threat. He was a ticking time bomb. Prosecutors made it clear. If he walked free, Mache and Layla might not live to see justice. The court agreed, sort of. They set Kirkland's bail at $100,000 and issued a no-contact order, legally barring him from Mache and her daughter. Problem solved, right? Not even close.
For the first time in a long while, Mache felt a flicker of relief. Kirkland was locked up, a no-contact order was in place, and the court had decided he would be monitored. Maybe, just maybe, she and her daughter were finally safe. But Kirkland had other plans. Despite the court order, despite the bars between them, he found a way to reach her. One phone call turned into another. At first, his voice was soft, desperate, begging her to take back what she had said. But soon the tone shifted. The pleas became demands. The threats crept back in. Mache, caught in a whirlwind of fear and guilt, told him she would fix things. A tragic moment, because she had done nothing wrong, yet here she was, feeling like the villain in her own nightmare. Authorities caught wind of Kirkland's calls and wasted no time slapping him with additional charges, violating the no-contact order and witness tampering. Prosecutors made it clear, Kirkland was dangerous. He needed to stay behind bars. If for some reason he got out, they demanded he wear a GPS ankle monitor to ensure Mache's safety. Then March 8th, 2023 arrived, and everything fell apart. Somewhere between court filings and administrative red tape, a crucial mistake slipped through. Due to a series of procedural errors, the GPS monitor order simply vanished into thin air. On paper, it existed. In reality, it never happened. And just like that, Kirkland walked free. No ankle monitor, no tracking, nothing. Within hours, he posted bail. By that evening, he was out, unwatched, unchecked, and just waiting for his next move. 4 days later, on March 12th, 2023, everything unraveled. It started the night before. March 11th, a Saturday. Mache and her 7-year-old daughter Layla had plans. But those plans, for reasons only she could explain, included Kirkland. Despite the violence, despite the restraining orders, she found herself back in his presence. Again, it was the same cycle. Threats, apologies, promises, restraints ignored, fears overridden. Maybe he wanted to make things right. Maybe she wanted to believe he could. That night, they stayed at a friend's apartment in Vancouver, Washington. The air between them was tense but familiar, the kind of uneasy calm before a storm. Maybe Mache was keeping the peace for Layla's sake. Maybe she was looking for some sense of stability in the chaos. One thing was certain: what happened next would change everything. At 5 a.m., before the sun could rise, Mache and Kirkland stepped outside. She climbed into his burgundy Dodge Charger. They drove off into the darkness. Whatever was said in that car, whatever transpired in those final hours, only one person would live to tell the tale.
3 hours later, at exactly 8 a.m., Kirkland rolled back into the apartment complex. But something was off. Mache was still in the passenger seat, completely still, slumped over, unresponsive. Through the window, a friend spotted her. No movement, no sign of life. Before the friend could even form a question, Kirkland got out like nothing was wrong. He strolled inside, casually announcing he was there to pick up Layla. 7-year-old Layla had been waiting for hours, completely unaware of the nightmare unfolding around her. She trusted Kirkland. He had always been there. So when he scooped her up and carried her outside, she didn't resist. Her mother was right there after all. To Layla, everything probably seemed fine, except it wasn't. Mache still hadn't moved. Kirkland placed Layla in the back seat, shut the door, and drove off. That was the last time anyone saw them alive. For the next few days, their disappearance flew under the radar. No one knew they were gone. No one knew what had happened in those crucial morning hours. But by March 18th, something felt wrong. Mache wasn't answering her phone, That alone was unusual. She was always in touch. But what truly sent alarm bells ringing? Layla's silence. The little girl loved checking in with her grandmother, sharing every tiny detail of her day, her toys, her favorite cartoons, even the latest drama involving her pet kitten. But now, nothing. No calls, no texts, just silence. Michelle's mother, Nicole Norris, couldn't shake the gut-wrenching feeling that something terrible had happened. That night, she picked up the phone and called the police, reporting both Michelle and Layla missing. Officers arrived at Michelle's apartment, hoping for answers. Instead, they found something eerily unsettling. No forced entry, no mess, no struggle. Everything looked normal. Well, except for one glaring problem.
Michelle and Layla vanished overnight. By morning, panic set in. Family and friends scrambled, calling everywhere Michelle might have gone, retracing her steps like detectives in a race against time. Then on March 19th, Michelle's mother, Nicolette, made a chilling discovery, one that turned fear into full-blown dread. Michelle's white Chrysler sat abandoned near Vancouver Mall, like a ghost of its last journey. Inside, Layla's booster seat sat empty, eerily untouched. If Michelle had left on her own, why would she leave her car behind? There was only one conclusion. Something terrible had happened, and the last person seen with them, Kirkland Warren. That same day, Vancouver police moved in. They didn't wait. With a warrant in hand, they went straight to Kirkland's home and arrested him. Officially, it was for violating the no-contact order and tampering with a witness. Unofficially, they knew exactly what they were doing. They needed time. They needed evidence. And soon they found it. Investigators searched Kirkland's Dodge Charger, the last known place Michelle and Layla had been. Inside, bloodstains. Forensic tests later confirmed the worst. Spent shell casings lurked beneath the seats, the silent witnesses of something unspeakable. Layla's tiny clothes carelessly tossed in the back. Michelle's ID discarded like she was nothing more than an afterthought. And then another vehicle search. This time the smoking gun. Literally. Hidden in the center console sat a pistol, same caliber as the casings in his Charger. The pieces were falling into place, but the biggest one was still missing. Michelle and Layla. The community held its breath, desperate for answers. Search parties combed through fields, forests, anywhere they could think of. But nothing. Meanwhile, Kirkland sat in his cell, silent. No confession, no explanation. Just a blank stare and a refusal to speak. Then on March 22nd, 2023, a random passerby in Washougal, Washington, noticed something strange along a remote stretch of road. At first, it looked like discarded mannequins, maybe dumped garbage. But something about it felt wrong. Unease crept in, and a 911 call followed. When authorities arrived, they waded through thick brush and found the truth. Not mannequins, not discarded trash. Bodies. A woman and a child. Meche Melendez and 7-year-old Layla Stewart had been left there, abandoned like something to be forgotten. But they wouldn't be. The search was over, and the heartbreak was just beginning. As investigators pieced it together, one thing became clear. This wasn't a crime of passion. It was methodical, planned, deliberate. Even in death, Kirkland had tried to control the narrative, leaving them hidden in the woods like they were never meant to be found. But the truth always has a way of clawing its way to the surface, and now there was nowhere left for him to hide.
Autopsy results confirmed the grim truth. Both victims had been executed. Michelle had taken a single gunshot to the left temple, quick, calculated, no hesitation. But Layla, she was shot twice in the head. The brutality was undeniable, and the details only grew darker from there. Investigators weren't just dealing with a double homicide. The evidence suggested something even worse. Layla's body bore signs of prior harm, and forensic testing confirmed the sickening reality. Kirkland Warren's DNA was on her. The same man who was the last to see them alive was now the prime suspect in something far more twisted than anyone had imagined. Then came the digital breadcrumbs. Warren's phone told its own disturbing story. In the days leading up to the grim discovery, he had been busy, searching for ways to clean blood from a car seat how to cover up a crime, and, most chillingly, how to kill the only witness. Subtlety was clearly not his strong suit, and if murder wasn't enough, Warren had one more trick up his sleeve. After Michelle was gone, he used her phone to drain $4,200 from her bank account into his own, because nothing screams mastermind like leaving an electronic paper trail. Investigators now had a timeline, a motive, and a suspect who seemed to think Google was a private diary. This wasn't a crime of passion. It was premeditated, methodical, and deeply disturbing. From the brutal killings to the failed cover-up, every detail pointed to Warren's cold calculation. The community reeled. What began as a search for a missing mother and daughter had turned into the unmasking of a horrifying betrayal. But just when authorities thought they had seen the worst, they dug into Warren's past. And what they found was even more terrifying.
Kirkland Warren's past wasn't just a series of bad decisions. It was a ticking time bomb. His criminal record stretched back years, leaving behind a pattern authorities could no longer ignore. Born in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, Kirkland had a privileged start. His father, a municipal judge. But in 2009, that prestige crumbled when the elder Warren resigned amid allegations of forgery and attempted theft. Guess the apple didn't fall far from the tree. Fast forward to 2017, and Kirkland was no stranger to bloodshed. That year, 57-year-old Curtis Card was found dumped in a ditch, a bullet lodged in his skull. The dispute? Money. Curtis wanted it, Kirkland didn't want to give it. So in true psychopath fashion, he solved the problem with a gun. Despite overwhelming evidence, he managed to post a staggering $250,000 bond and walked free. Big mistake. But he didn't just sit quietly after that. In 2020, authorities caught him with a stolen semi-automatic handgun. And by 2021, he was lying on gun applications claiming he wasn't under indictment for a felony. The application got denied, but did that stop him? Not a chance. He got his hands on a gun anyway, one that would soon play a crucial role in a brutal double murder. By the time Michelle Melendez and her daughter Layla vanished, investigators were already connecting the dots. His history of violence wasn't just a red flag, it was a screaming siren. But as detectives dug deeper, they uncovered something even more chilling. This wasn't just about rage, there was money involved. In November 2022, just months before Michelle's death, a new player entered the picture. Kirkland's wife, Moy Tyler Warren. And let's just say she wasn't exactly a law-abiding citizen either. Moy, a bank employee in Portland, had a side hustle, embezzlement. She stole $25,000 from customer accounts and funneled it into different places. But that was just the warm-up act. Soon, investigators discovered she had altered account information to move a jaw-dropping $220,000. And guess whose name was on one of those accounts? Michelle Melendez. Surveillance footage placed Michelle at the credit union during the heist, meaning she and Moy were tangled in this mess together. Whether Michelle knew the full extent of the scam remained unclear, but one thing was certain, this wasn't just about a bad relationship. Kirkland and his circle were knee-deep in crime, and Michelle had gotten caught up in their storm. Then came September 2023, the moment of reckoning. With a trial looming, Kirkland finally made a move that sealed his fate. He pleaded guilty to the murders of Michelle and Layla. But in a final act of cowardice, he tried to dodge full responsibility. For the charge of abusing Layla, he pulled an Alford plea, a sneaky legal maneuver where he didn't admit guilt but acknowledged that the evidence was stacked against him. At first, he spun a ridiculous story, claiming Michelle had accidentally shot herself during a struggle over a gun. But surprise, nobody bought it. The forensic evidence told a much darker story, and the truth crushed any last shred of doubt. In the end, Kirkland's fate was sealed not just by his crimes, but by his own arrogance. What started as a missing persons case had unraveled into a chilling web of violence, betrayal, and greed. Justice had finally caught up with him, but for Michelle and Layla, it had come far too late.
Kirkland Warren thought he could cut a deal and save himself, a last-ditch move to protect what little was left of his image. But the truth, his fate was already sealed. Then came the day everyone had been waiting for, October 8, 2024, sentencing. The courtroom was packed, tension thick enough to choke on. Michelle and Layla's family filled the seats, their grief raw and unfiltered. Many wore shirts with the smiling faces of the mother and daughter, faces now frozen in time, reminders of what Warren had stolen. The atmosphere burned with anger. Some family members refused to hold back, locking eyes with Warren and telling him exactly what they wished for him: endless suffering. And honestly, no one in that room disagreed. But no amount of justice could ever bring Michelle and Layla back. The judge didn't sugarcoat it. He looked Warren dead in the eyes and made it clear: no words, no punishment, no legal outcome could erase the horror of what he had done. The courtroom fell into a heavy silence. Everyone held their breath. Then the sentence dropped. Life in prison, no parole, no second chances, no way out. For the first time, Warren had no escape plan, no lies to spin, no blood money to move around, just a lifetime behind bars, left to rot with the weight of his crimes.
2 innocent lives were gone. A mother and daughter ripped away forever. Warren's sentence might have been justice, but did it really fix anything? The damage was done. No verdict could turn back time. As the handcuffs clicked shut and Warren was led away, the family stayed behind. Grief still weighed heavy in the room, but there was something else: a sense of closure. They had fought for justice, and in the end, they got it. But justice doesn't heal wounds. The loss of Michelle and Layla would never fade. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room: the justice system. Because this case, it raises some serious red flags. Warren wasn't some first-time offender who slipped through the cracks. He had a violent history, a past assault charge, a literal murder case, and yet he was granted bail. Multiple times, a guy with a track record of violence was let out to roam free. And we're supposed to believe the system did everything it could. This isn't just about Warren. This happens way too often. So real talk, should we be rethinking how bail works? Should there be tougher restrictions for repeat offenders? Stricter monitoring? Because when someone like Warren can post bail and go right back to committing crimes, we have a problem. And then there's the issue of restraining orders. Michelle had one against Warren, and yet he still managed to contact her. That's terrifying. Restraining orders are supposed to protect victims, but in reality, they're just pieces of paper unless enforced properly. So the big question, are restraining orders enough? Or do we need stronger protections, better monitoring, and real consequences for violations? It's a tough conversation, but cases like this prove we need to have it. At the end of the day, this case isn't just about Warren's crimes. It's about a system that failed Michelle and Layla. And if nothing changes, it'll keep failing others. So what do you think? Does the justice system need a serious overhaul? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this case got you thinking, there's plenty more like it on the channel. Hit like, share, and subscribe. It helps bring attention to stories that need to be heard. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.